So first, let's get into the actual grammar rules and let's go from there. So we must master these common grammar errors that you'll see on the test. These are the most commonly tested grammar errors on section 2, and you want to be familiar with them to solve these questions. So we're going to go through these. So the first one, subject-verb agreement. Subject and verb agreement. So they have to be in agreement with each other in some way, shape, or form. The rule says that a singular subject requires a singular verb, and a plural subject requires, you guessed it, a plural verb. They have to be in agreement with each other. So if one's singular, the other has to be singular. If one's plural, the other has to be plural. So let's look at this real easy example to drive it home. The girls has competed internationally in the Olympics. So has competed, that's a verb. I know that's an action taking place. So I'm going to set it up accordingly. So my verb, which is the underlined portion, and is usually the case with these questions, has competed. What's the subject? What's the noun? So we have the verb. We got to see what the subject is in the sentence. What's the subject in this sentence? Take a second and try to figure it out. The subject is girls. The subject is who or what is doing the action. Write that down. Remember that. The subject is who or what is actually doing the action. So who has competed internationally in the Olympics? The girls has competed internationally in the Olympics. So we have our subject, we have our verb. Now what's the next thing you think, based on the grammar rule, that we need to determine? Singular and plural. So we're going to look at the subject. The subject's going to be our base here because the verb is underlined. That could be incorrect. So we don't want to start by determining if the verb is plural or singular. We want to start by looking at the subject. It has to match with the subject. So girls, singular or plural? Plural. Has competed. Is that singular or is that plural? Is that a singular or plural form of the verb? It's a singular form. Has is the singular form. How do we know? How do we know that that's the singular form? Here's a really good way to test it out. You insert he or they and then read the verb and see which makes sense. So he has or they has. Which one of those makes sense to you? We say he has. Well, he is a singular pronoun, so that makes has the singular form. They is a plural pronoun, so has is not plural. Has is singular. He has. That makes sense? So that's a really good way to test if the verb is singular or plural by inserting either he or they and seeing which one makes sense. He is singular, they is plural. So, okay. So now we've determined our subject and verb, and we've identified whether each is singular or plural. So looking back at the grammar rule, are they in agreement with each other? No, they're not. One's plural, one's singular. So we need the verb, the underlined portion, has an error. It clearly now has an error. We've identified it needs to match up with girls. It needs to match up and be plural. So the plural form of has would be have. We say they have. We don't say he have, we say they have. They is plural, have is plural. That would be the correct answer if we had some answer choices here. So let's go to practice test 3, section 2, and look at number 15 and 36. Okay, so here we are, number 15. Let's look in the sentence where 15 is. And what I always recommend is to put brackets around the beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence. That always helps me stay focused. I'm going to highlight it for you guys. You obviously won't be able to do this on the test, but definitely put the brackets. So this is the sentence in question for number 15. What's the very first thing we do, guys? We compare the answer choices to see what's changing from answer to answer. So we already did this one before, so it should be easy. But choice A is was, were, was, were. I know those are verbs. It's, their, its, those are pronouns. And it's real easy. I know we haven't talked about pronouns yet, but it's super simple. Okay, so verbs. So what do I know about verbs? I know that the verb, if the subject is plural, the verb needs to be plural, singular, singular. Okay, now that I've identified what I need to actually use to solve this, I got it up here in my mind. So the first thing we do is we're going to set it up as subject, verb, and let's go to work, guys. So the verb is always the underlined portion. Was unique. I'll just leave it at was unique because was is the verb in itself. Was unique. Was unique. Okay, what's the subject? What do we ask ourselves to identify the subject? Do you remember? How do we identify the correct subject? What do we ask ourselves? Who or what was unique for its high standards of service and quality? The Harvey houses was unique for its high standard of service and quality. So the Harvey houses. Okay, we've identified our subject, we've identified our verb. Now what do we do, guys? We got to identify singular or plural. So Harvey houses, that's definitely plural, that's multiple houses. Was unique. Was unique. Is that singular or plural? Is that the singular or plural form of the verb? Was unique. Do you remember how we test it out? Do we say he was or do we say they was? Which one do we say, guys? We say he was. He is singular, so that makes was also singular. All right, so we have a plural subject and a singular verb. Are those in agreement with each other? No, we have a grammar error and we need to correct it. So any answer choice that has was, you can go ahead and cross it off because it clearly does not match up with the plural subject. So choice A has was and choice C has was. Remember, cross out the entire answer choice. Okay, so now we're between B and D. Well, they both have were. So what else is changing in the answer choices? The pronouns, their and its. Which one do you think is the correct answer choice and why? Choice B is the correct answer choice, their, because there is plural. Well, if the subject's plural, if the verb is plural, then the pronoun also needs to be plural. There is a plural pronoun, guys. It refers to multiple people. It is a singular pronoun. It refers to one thing. So it needs to be consistent across the board. So that's number 15. Let's look at the next question. Okay, I'm on number 36, practice test 3, section 2, number 36. What's the first thing we do, guys? We put brackets where the sentence starts, and then I will highlight it for you guys out of courtesy. Great. What's the next thing that we do, guys? We look at what's changing between the answer choices, right? So what's changing between the answer choices? The word portray. It's in different tenses. Portray is a verb. If I'm portraying something, it's an action that I'm doing. I'm portraying it, the action of portray. So I know it's a verb, and I see it's in different tenses. Okay, so I know I'm dealing with verbs here. All right, so let's go to work. Identify my subject, identify my verb. I want to challenge you to press pause and see if you can answer this question yourself using the methods we've discussed so far. We've looked at 2 examples together. I have the confidence that you can do it on your own. So take a try, press pause, see if you can solve it, and then press play when you're ready, and we'll compare notes. Okay, so my subject, my verb, I can underline, my verb is the underlined one, portrays. I know that. What question do we ask ourselves to identify the correct subject? Who or what is doing the action? Make sure you write that down. Who or what portrays animals? The works of art portrays animals. The works of art. All right. Now what do we do, guys? Got to see singular or plural. So works of art, that's multiple pieces of art, so that's plural. Portrays, is that the singular or plural form of the verb? What do we ask ourselves? How do we check if it's the singular or the plural form? How do we check, guys? Go ahead and do that. He portrays, they portrays. He portrays. Go away. He portrays. That sounds, yeah, not they portrays. No, that doesn't sound correct. So he portrays. So portrays is singular because he is singular, so portrays is singular. Do we have a grammar error here? Yes, they're not in agreement with each other. So I can automatically cross out choice A, portrays. So I'm left with the other ones. Is there anything else I can cross out? We know we need plural. We need the verb to be plural. Is there anything else that's singular? The word has is also singular. Do we say he has or they has? We say he has. He has. He is singular, so that makes has also singular. We know we need plural. We don't need singular. We need plural. Our subject is plural, so everything else needs to be plural. So we can cross out D as well because D is singular. So A and D are both singular. And then you're left between B and C is the best answer. Portray. He portray, they portray. We say they portray. And they is plural, portray is plural, and it's also in the present tense, which we'll get to in a minute. So C is the correct answer, portray. So that's it for subject-verb agreement. Let's look at verb tense and look at that grammar rule. Can't wait, let's go. I know you're just so excited. Okay. So with verb tense, each string of verbs in a sentence should reflect the same tense. That's the main thing that you need to know. As long as the timing within the sentence doesn't change. So if the sentence begins in the past and stays in the past, then each verb in that string should be in the past tense as well. So basically, if the sentence as a whole is taking place in the past, then those verbs should reflect the past tense overall. Present should reflect present tense, future should all reflect future tense. Real simple, not hard stuff. This is like 7th grade language arts, guys. I know it's been a while since we looked at it, but it's not difficult. So let's take a look at some examples. I have the examples on the screen here. So the first thing we want to do is identify the other verbs in the sentence, not the underlined portion, because that could be incorrect tense. Remember, that could be an error. So we want to look at everything that's not underlined. That always is going to be our gauge. So the other verbs in the sentence are Let me write it over here. Cited. And that's it. That's the only other verb we have in the sentence besides the underlined portion. Is cited past tense, present tense, or future tense? It's past tense. So our verbs, our underlined verb needs to also reflect past tense. This sentence is referring to the past. So we can get rid of be, because be is future tense. It will possess. We can get rid of see because that's present tense. So we get rid of be, we get rid of see. Now we're between A and D. Was, that's something that happened in the past, and possessed, that's also something that happened in the past. So what do you think the correct answer is and why? So the correct answer is D, possessed. First and foremost, it's the same structure as cited. Possessed, cited. Don't those look constructed similar with an ed at the end? So that's your first clue. And then was possessing, it's a past continuous. So it started in the past, was, but possessing means it's continuing on to the future. So D is a better answer choice. Okay, let's look at another one. So I want to challenge you to press pause and take a look at just this example right here. Don't go on to question 38 just yet. Look at this question right here. Identify all the verbs in the sentence. Determine if those other verbs are past, present, or future, and then see if you can use that to answer the question correctly. So press pause, and then you can come back and we can compare notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the question. So first thing we do, let's identify the other verbs in the sentence. Believe Appalachian pronunciation comes from, that's an action, but some theorizes, that's our underlined portion, I'm not touching it, that this dialect of English may be closer to what Londoners spoke. Maybe is also a verb, but don't worry about that. Spoke in Elizabethan times. Okay, so we have believe, that is present. And we have comes from, also present. And even though you have spoke, which is past, the entire sentence as a whole is referring to the present. So I don't think every single little bitty verb in the sentence has to be the same, but overall where the sentence is taking place. Many scholars believe Appalachian pronunciation comes from. So this is all taking place in the present tense. So our underlined verb should also reflect the present tense. So we know we need present. So we can cross out any answer choice that is not present tense. Theorized, that's past tense. Theorized, choice B, that's also past tense. Always use process of elimination, guys, and cross out the entire answer. So much better to look at. So now I have theorizes and theorize. What do you think the correct answer is and why? The correct answer is D, theorize. And the reason is, referring back to our other grammar rule, who or what theorizes? Some theorizes. Some is plural, some people, referring to multiple people. Theorizes is singular. We say he theorizes. We don't say they theorizes. So theorizes, he theorizes. He is singular, so theorizes is singular. So coming back to our other subject-verb agreement, that is the reason that choice A is wrong. And it doesn't sound right. But don't do that, though. But don't do that. You need to know the grammar rules and concepts. Theorizes is singular, some is plural. So let's look at practice test 3, section 2, question number 38 for our last example of verb tense. Okay, guys, what's the first thing that we do? we put brackets around. Always put brackets around the sentence in question. So we got bracket there, it's where it starts, that's where it finishes, and then I'm gonna highlight it. Really spoiling you guys with this highlighting. You're not gonna be able to do it on the real test, but we're learning. We gotta make it as easy as possible and less intimidating as we're learning this stuff. So, and I like you guys too, that always helps. So we put brackets around, now what do? So the next thing that we do is identify the verbs in the sentence. So we have guarded, ridding, and damage. Guarded, ridding, and damage. Well, guarded is past, ridding is present, and damage is also present. So where is this sentence taking place, in the past or the present? So what you want to do is, being we have a lot of different verbs going on here with different tenses, you want to look at the string of verb that's closest to the underlined portion. So other rodents that could damage the art, not to mention scared off visitors. So we want something that matches damage because it's closest to the verb in the string of verbs, and it's a continuation of that thought. Other rodents that could damage the art, not to mention scare off visitors. Choice C, scare, which is also present tense. We know for sure we can get rid of A, which is past tense, scared, and we can also get rid of D, which is also past tense. And scaring would not make sense. That's just grammatically incorrect if you were to plug it in. So could damage the art, not to mention scare off visitors. Those are in the same tense, damage and scare. So choice C is the correct answer. So that's it for this video. We introduced section 2 and we got started with the grammar rules. We looked at subject-verb agreement and verb tense. So go ahead, proceed to the next video, and we'll continue on with the grammar rules.